What time is it?
Passa Passa,
Time?
Passa Passa.
Time? Every gal, every gal, every gal, every gal. I go me a
Passa Passa.
stop, girl, wine, drink and feel like the drink and rave till the morning light, my girl. Center, have a clap, stand uptown, downtown. You know who this is?
Everyone, welcome to episode 10. We certainly hope everyone is continuing to be safe in the pandemic, especially as some cities are starting to open up and the weather's getting warm. People are getting tempted, so just stay safe, socially distance when you're out. But before I begin, clearly, I would say that our little train that could is chugging along in such an amazing way. Look at us, literally, look at us now. Carrie made a suggestion, or maybe it was a listener, that we do some kind of video interaction, and our very talented resident techie, Mish, figured something out, got us all sorted. And so now, in addition to our audio podcast posting, we will hopefully have YouTube video to accompany. And I must say, this is quite exciting.
Yes.
So we hope you enjoy this new dimension of interaction with us. And before we begin, even though some of you can see us, let's do roll call for our podcast audience. So this is Shar, Carrie.
You have to say
This is for the podcast people.
Oh, for the audio people, you
This is
first
for
of
the
all should be watching
podcast.
the video. And I'm waving. This is Carrie.
So,
I'm here.
Mish.
Ayo.
So today we'll be talking about culture clash. A very special listener. So shout out to our sis Mo. That's Mish's sister.
Hey,
So this is the
Mama.
topic, and I loved it right away. I love to learn about experiencing cultures, whether music, food, language, other religious or secular practices. It's just all fascinating to me. And I think for us as immigrants, there's another dimension to our experiences with new culture, and it has to do with us leaving our home or place of birth and moving to somewhere new. And this is what we want to start this episode talking about. So each of our experiences, I think, moving from Jamaica to the US has been different. We moved at different points in our lives and under different circumstances. So how did migrating to the United States work for all of us? Well, I'm going to use the 4 phases of culture shock that I've taken from Elizabeth Marx's Breaking Through Culture Shock and described in Francis Wade's Go Jamaica article to guide our responses. So I'm going to go through the phases, and as I go through the phases, I'll invite you ladies to chime in. So there are 4 phases. I'm going to talk about the first 2. When someone settles into... Take notes, my friend. Don't worry, I think once you hear the phases, they're going to just seamlessly fit into kind of how you experience the US.
Okay.
So the first phase is the honeymoon phase, right? There's a new place, it's exciting, full of possibilities. You're making plans about how you are going to take this move on and the transition. So, lots of shopping, the malls are big, full of things, endless possibilities, right? I'm anticipating you guys had some of those experiences. And then the second phase is culture shock, right? Where the differences between you and the new place is becoming evident. So maybe you have your first experience of feeling different, or something is said to you that you just don't understand the connotations, some kind of stigma. So I want to start here. So those are the first 2 phases, right? Honeymoon and culture shock. As you talk about how you experience these first 2 earlier phases of your move to the US, tell us a little bit, just a snippet of when you moved here. Because like me, I moved here when I was 17. I was moving here after high school to college, right? So to me, this was going to be new in sense of not only a different culture, but I'm going to be living away from home on campus. I'm going to be experiencing winter for the first time. I told y'all about how when I moved here, I got a bag of things. So my dad had gotten stuff from like my aunts. They're like, no man, you're gonna need enough sweater, winter clothes, and I have none, right? So it's not like Jamaica where you move with your stuff, and then you could buy new stuff for school.
Yeah.
I had zero stuff, so I had to get some stuff and then buy some stuff. So I got this big bag of like sweaters and jackets, and I had to go through it, see what fit, what I thought looked good, that I feel like I wear to college. And guys, my first winter, I had this big cream colored winter jacket. Now y'all know that don't make no sense. It was cream. Like, this is not the color. This is not the winter color unless you're coming correct, right?
I mean, if it's an Olivia Pope cream,
It's
then
not winter white.
Well.
It was
I'm just saying.
It was not.
It was not.
Olivia Pope.
1989 Brooklyn.
Okay.
Cream jacket. So, you ladies, tell me a little bit about what part of your kind of life you moved here and how you first experienced moving to the US. First. Okay.
Similar to you, I moved here pseudo for college. So my last year of high school, I still had not figured out what I was going to do with my life. I did not want to go to UA. I actually wanted to be a meteorologist and hadn't figured out how to get that done. So right before I was to come, my cousin was like, come to Rutgers. By the way, she was at Rutgers at the time. Come to Jersey. It's great. Selling, And when your cousins used to visit, and we used to bring shoes, everything I'm bringing you. Everything is, oh yes, I'm going to Rutgers. But then at that point, I didn't do any SATs. I had not prepared for the US life at all. Mm-hmm. So I decided I was going to go do one more year of high school, especially since in Jamaica, high school stopped at grade 11. And grade 12, you're just going to do one more year of grade 12, do the SATs, prep for college, and then go to college. And my last experience, I remember the first day I went to school, I was in a long sleeve yellow shirt, yellow turtleneck. This was the 2nd of September, a long sleeve yellow turtleneck and overalls. What do you call jumper? Like a jumper?
Mercy.
Man, this was in 1999. Okay?
That's like a TLC look. We could do that.
Listen, I don't know what it was, but huh?
That was still in 99.
Let's roll with that, okay?
Stop it. So doubtful.
I think, like Shar, I did get my clothes from my cousin also, but I can't remember where my clothes came from. I don't know where my eye water. Anyway, I don't know where my clothes came from. I cannot remember. This is so long ago. And then after I went to school, they tried to get me to do junior year again. And I was like, no, that is not happening. So I ended up doing more classes for senior year because you have to graduate, quote unquote, you have to do US History 1 and 2, and they weren't allowing me to do US History 1 and 2 at the same time. So they were trying to put me in junior year so that I could push back. Anyway, got around that. That was the first hurdle, is that their school system is way different from the school system here in America. Is different from the school system in Jamaica.
So you went to senior year high school?
Yes, I did senior year in high school here. And the first task was trying to explain to them that an 80 in Jamaica is amazing.
What? It's true.
Amazing.
I'm getting 60 and like, all right.
Yes.
Yes.
It's not a game. I was like, listen, people, I was passing. What you talking about? They were like, nope. We're not taking. Anyway, so the trying to convince them that I needed to move from junior to senior year was a task. It took me about a month to do it. Mm-hmm. And so there were classes that I took, ended up moving into. So trying to go to a new school in a new area with new people, and then moving from class to class as they were shuttling me around. And then you had the people who are like, because of course at this point I'm very, very Jamaican. And at this point, people are like, oh, and there are Jamaicans there. I mean, Montclair is one of those more diverse neighborhoods. So there are people from every kind of walk of life. There is Upper Montclair, and there is Montclair, and they all went to Montclair High. It's not like Upper Montclair had a different high school. So anyway, the idea is so you can understand the type of kids that were there. And all of them, outside of the kids that were Jamaican, would ask the same questions. Oh, you're from Jamaica? That's awesome. Y'all have light? Well, then they said like power. I don't even know. I still don't know because I said light now, like light gone. What do you mean light? Like light? Like light? No, power, electricity, light gone. So anyway, y'all have light. We don't live in trees. Are your lions roaming? My entire
lions. They have more wild animals here.
Lions. Okay. My entire senior year, I took to transition. I learned nothing. My GPA in chemistry at Montclair High was 104. Like in chemistry class, I learned nothing in my senior year at Montclair except how to adapt to American life. That was it. That's the
lot.
only thing I learned.
That's enough.
A lot. Yeah. So that was my transition to America. It was just very weird, very different, but I learned a lot of things in that 1 year that I was there. So very interesting.
Yeah. Wow. I have to say, my experience, my first year here was the complete opposite. There was absolutely no honeymoon phase for me whatsoever. No, I had zero honeymoon phase. I remember I was very excited to come to America because my dad was here. My dad filed for the entire family, my mom and my siblings. And when we came, I remember getting off the plane and looking at, we came in the night, it was October in the night, you know, it was already cold. Sure. And my dad, it was like five that came at the same time. So it's just my dad here by himself. So my dad went and got jackets from like everybody he can find who can give him a jacket. So we were all like in jackets that didn't fit, right? When they met us at the airport, it was just like, here you go, put it on, make it fit. You put that on. That by itself was traumatizing. But anyways, that's not even the worst part. I remember getting to the apartment that my dad lived in, and my dad lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. God bless him. Ooh. And 5 came, my mom and myself and my siblings. It was 5, and we're all now in this 1-bedroom apartment. And my mom, I remember we walked in and we were like, okay. Like where the kids go to sleep, but my dad's like, we're going to make the best of it for now, you know. And don't get me wrong, that wasn't even an issue because we were just happy to be with our father. But remember my first day at school. Oh my gosh, that was traumatic. Day number 3, we started school in America. Day number 3, and I remember going to school and you know, I was always a friendly kid. I make friends real easy. In Jamaica, you know, I knew everybody. And I remember going to school on the 3rd day, being in America, and, you know, going to class. 9th grade, I came here, and I went to 9th grade, and I remember sitting down, and the teacher was teaching. I'm like, what are you guys doing? I did this in 7th grade. Like, what is going on? So obviously, the material I already knew. And I would not forget, this boy came over to me and he was like, listen, I know you're new and I know you're from Jamaica and I know you Jamaicans come up in these countries acting like y'all smart. So here's the deal, okay? Whenever we get homework, you're gonna do 2. 1 for me and 1 for you.
Oh, wait.
And I remember going, oh. Now, I mean,
America.
I always had a mouth on me. I was always a spicy chick. So I'm like, oh yeah, talk.
Is that what you said?
I'm like, oh yeah, talk to you, yeah, boy. And I remember him saying, listen, you're in America now. You're going to speak English. I know what you just said. And I'm like, listen to me carefully. No. Who you are,
because the exclamation points after every word makes a difference.
Listen.
Unable.
Unable. She
was
skipped
really
right past honeymoon.
My God.
made he really made my first year in America just not very pleasant. I had to get my brother. My brother had to literally like go in and like threaten him about the second month because I didn't want to tell my brother. In fact, I told no one about a month, and I took it for like a month, and then it got overbearing. My brother went to him and was like, "Listen, man, I don't know if you respect your life and you want to live, but I guarantee if you talk to my sister again, it's going to be a whole different, story." And he backed off, but he got his little goons, his little female friends to I guess jump in where he left off. So my first year in America was traumatic. It was not nice at all. I remember.
What was this?
Huh?
What grade was this?
Ninth grade.
Oh, okay.
I remember
used to be
crying
cool.
every single day to my dad that I wanted to go back to Jamaica. My entire first year, my entire ninth grade, I cried every single day after school. It was so bad. I wanted to go back to Jamaica.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't want to tell my dad what was going on at school because I know my dad is crazy. And I didn't want to tell my mom because, we all have the thick accent. I didn't want my mom going to school be like, "Oh, not to my picnic."
Yeah.
So I'm not going to tell my parents. So, I try to just make the best of it during my ninth grade year until I made a few Jamaican friends and I started sticking around them a little. But it wasn't until my second year, my 10th grade, that things got a little better when I changed school. East side, my 1 year East side, man, was traumatic, and I have no good memories. No good memories, I have to admit, from East side. When I changed school and I went to Hart, for 10th grade, then things got a lot better. So I guess I could say culture shock came for me first before the honeymoon. One thing that really messed me up though was the culture shock of seeing how the students spoke to the teachers. Man, that thing messed me up.
Right? Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
I remember my first time getting whooping in Jamaica at school. I got caught eating bubble gum. I'm like,
What is happening?
bubble gum, and I got a whooping for it at school. And I come to America, and these kids are like, "Shut up, miss. Who you talking to?" And I'm like,
Oh, that's extreme.
"Kill him. You gonna kill him."
That happens all the time. That
That
happens
is
all the time.
extreme. Listen, I mean, this is not when I moved to America, but one summer I was here visiting my dad, and he put me in summer school. And yes, first of all, I was 14 and they were 18, and we were doing the same math. But here's the difference. They were using like TI this, TI that. I did not know how to use TI nothing. So I had to be like doing everything by hand because I did not know how to use their fancy calculators. And this is me. Miss, can I go use the bathroom?
Yes.
I did not know that kids got up and walked out of the class.
Yep.
True, Shar. It messed me up, man. That shocked. In fact, when I came here, I wanted to be a teacher, and I remember saying, "Absolutely not. I will never," because I'm going to jail if one of them kids talk to me like that. No, guys, I'm
Here, no.
Exactly.
Here we are.
I remember one of the first memories I had of high school is seeing a kid walking down the hall pregnant, and I was like, how is this happening?
Houseway.
How-
Pregnancy was a rumor in high school.
Right?
I would never
Kids
even
would
lay
just
eyes on them.
No, kids would just disappear in high school.
Disappear.
What? That person moved to a different school. What happened? That was the end of the argument. Here, kids would just walk down the hall, pregnant, almost ready for bus, pregnant. Okay, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, that is true.
Different.
One time in my biology class, I'll never forget this, man. This girl, one of the girls that made my life hell. I remember she walked in one day. She walked in like funny, like her legs wide apart, and she was like barely walking. And her friend said to her, "Dad, yo, what you did last night? Why you walking like that?" This is in front of everybody, right? And she went, "Man, he tore me up last night. That boy had me crying for my mama." And I remember saying,
This is in the 9th grade?
"This is the 9th grade."
Yes, ma'am.
On the manners them time they what?
Wait, did she just? Am I hearing?
No.
I want my mommy. Like, she in front of everybody. She was like, he tore me up last night. Like, no cares in the world. And I'm like, wait, because if you kiss a boy in Jamaica, it's like a secret. I didn't kiss him. What you talking about? No, not me.
Yes, bare hidden shenanigans are going to Jamaica, but another time for that one there.
Shenanigans are happening, okay?
Bare hidden shenanigans.
Because
So
don't get
Terry,
it twisted. Don't get it twisted. It was happening.
I was
It
about to say,
happening.
and now if now where there's social media, you will keel over at what you will see.
Yep.
True.
But Terry, tell us about your move.
I definitely didn't have as traumatic an experience as so. I had a really good transition, I would say, but I came in the summertime, so I had some time before school started. Had a little time with my parents, just to kind of get used to the new environment. I moved in with my grandmother pretty quickly, so it was me, my grandmother, and my mom. And at that point, when I moved here, I had been in high school for about 2 years. So I went to high school when I got here. And I want to say I linked with a group of really great people my freshman year, which is hard because I came with a Jerry curl. And if you can imagine a Jerry curl
Ooh.
in
Was it a wet Jerry? I just need context.
No, it wasn't a wet Jerry. It was more a dry Jerry, but Jerry nonetheless.
All right, dry curl better than wet. Carry on.
It's better than wet. But there was no convincing people that was the case. Although in Jamaica, having a dry Jerry curl was okay.
Yeah, that was a little bit better. Yeah, man, because you couldn't really just look like a curly something.
It's just a curl, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
a wet one.
But I will say, most of the people that I met as friends in 9th grade, I'm still in some communication with them to this day. It was like a core of maybe 5 or 6 of us.
Did you move the 9th grade?
I did. When I came here, I went straight to 9th grade in September. And the people that I met were really supportive. Even my guidance counselor, like I remember people just being really, really, really supportive that very first year.
God bless.
Which was a blessing. But what I will say is when I came here, on the plane here, I was like saying goodbye to Jamaican music. I was like, oh my God. And I was literally like sad on the plane because I was like listening to all the music I could. I was like, oh, it's the last time I'm going to hear reggae.
What year was that? Listen to your Shabba.
What in the coffee? I was young and silly and having all these like grand expectations about America and land of milk and honey, like all the, ways that people would portray America back then, like, oh, you're going to the land of opportunity.
Yeah.
And then you get here and it's real life.
Real life.
You're in a Pele hand down pants that don't fit. And it's the middle of winter.
Put a hand down.
Okay?
Oh my
So,
God.
but yeah, I had a pretty good, I would say, honeymoon phase. High school kids can be vicious, but I think if you have a good like core group, it makes it less traumatic. Because I remember getting made fun of because I would say Z instead of Z all the time, and kids can be vicious.
Mm-hmm.
They can be vicious, but after a while, that second year, I had my weave going. You couldn't tell me nothing. I was
Can you see the transition? She got rid of the Jerry curl, transitioned into a weave.
I had the weave going. I had the top old ham jeans. Shout out to my cousin in Philly. She hooked me up. She got me straight. I was ready that second year, but that first year was good.
Good for you.
I don't have those a pair of Air Force Ones by my sophomore year of college.
Yo, I have my Air Force One sophomore year too. Don't get it twisted. I was like, I am getting these Air Force Ones. Listen.
A rites of passage. I'm getting these sneakers.
Seriously.
It's so funny you guys are talking about. Go ahead, Soph.
No, I'm saying I'm wearing whatever my daddy can afford. This man was here by himself and he just took 5 kids. It's whatever he could afford. I'm walking out in and But you know, it's funny. Those things don't bother because I remember when I was in Jamaica, for example, Payless in Jamaica was like the thing.
My girl, anything you buy in foreign and bring to Jamaica.
Listen, but that too. So when I came in, I was like, oh, Payless. I'm going to Payless. Come on, Robbie. And I remember showing up to school in my Payless sneakers and people are like, ooh, Payless.
What are those?
You know what? This is brand. This is Payless. And they're like, no, it's not. Like, what's wrong with you people? Listen, man. You know what? Those are the good old days.
The good old days, my girl. And I think maybe I skipped them because in college people weren't as like, brand heavy. Well, not my people. Not the people I hung out with. No one really cared or judged you for whatever you were wearing. So I probably skipped that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Plus, I was in college, so.
You were who in college?
I was working in college, so,
Oh, yeah. No, I had a little money. I was working in a library. Oh, that was my first, real job. I love how when I moved here, I heard that there was a stereotype, like Jamaicans have 3 and 4 jobs. And I was like, let me clarify that. Maybe Jamaicans are hardworking people. So when they move here, they have 2, 3, 4 jobs. But in Jamaica, you can't find jobs for adults. So kids like me never worked because where would I work in? Because legit, the kids in high school, they were like, oh, they worked at Six Flags and McDonald's or whatever. I'm like, real people with family have those jobs in Jamaica. You don't get those jobs.
That's true.
So I didn't have a real job till I moved here. I was working in college.
Yeah, me too.
So the 3rd and the 4th phases are where things get nice. So the 3rd phase is recovery and the 4th is adjustment, right? So this is where the author is saying that immigrants who appreciate that, you're going to have to adapt a bit to your new environment, move into a recovery phase, right? Because you could obviously stay in a phase where you're just in culture shock. But once you realize that this is a new environment, you need to do some adaptive, you get a bit self-reflexive, right? So something has to give, right? How do you adjust to your environment, right? How do you retain whatever amount of identity you want to retain or you feel necessary to retain, right? And then how do you also assimilate, right? And then the adjustment is when you become fully flexible. And I would say a lot of immigrants I know don't get to adjustment. They still kind of are recovering. They're adapted enough, but they're not fully flexible, right? So they're not like different people by virtue of their new environment. They're kind of more, this is who I am, and I've learned how to adapt to my environment, but I'm not fully accepting it, right? What I would say, though, is whether or not you go from recovery to becoming very flexible, I think that I've had to deal with is the longer I stay here, when I was first here, I felt very Jamaican. And actually still now I feel very Jamaican, but the longer I'm here, I feel like even though I think I'm 150% Jamaican, and a lot of my friends here will agree, when you go to Jamaica, they kind of let you know, yeah, you are not Jamaican enough, right? And you're certainly not American, right?
Yeah.
Right. For days.
No.
I remember
I agree.
Really made me feel so bad once. Dave, I love him, but boy, I never forget the night we went up. Listen, may I call you out, Dave? May I call you out? I never forget we went out one night and I'm thinking I'm all Jamaican.
Oh, I remember this. Yes.
He was like, yo, you're not Jamaican. I'm like, yo, where do I belong? Because in America, everybody made it very clear that I'm Jamaican. And now I'm in Jamaica, They tell me I'm not Jamaican. So I'm like, wait, this is a serious issue. What am I?
It's true.
That is true.
I want to belong somewhere. And if Jamaicans tell me I'm not Jamaicans and Americans tell me I'm not Americans, I didn't know where to fit in, to be honest. I didn't know what I was.
Yep. You gotta tell the story of when we were all in.
But now
in
tell the story.
Oh yeah.
I don't know the story. What is the
I
story?
don't know the story either. So I want to know the story.
So it was Lottie there?
No.
It was Debbie,
And I'm
Soph,
I'm
Amy. Amy is Mo's friend who happens to be white also. Amy, Mo, me, and Ed. All were in Jamaica at the same time. Yes. I think that was the year I went home, which was like 2007. I don't remember. It was one of those years that I went home, and everybody was in Jamaica all at the same time, and we decided we're going on a trip. First we went to Portland, and then from Portland we went to the opposite side of the island. We went to Negril, right? Went to Portland first, and then went to Negril. On our way to Portland, we stop in Harborview, and we're going to the gas station to buy cheap like snacks because we're on our way to Portland and we need snacks. We stop at the gas station, and Monica and Amy go in and they buy snacks, and then Soph go in. So if you go in by yourself, Soph goes in and buys the snacks and come back out.
Complain.
Yes, complain and all. Oh, you said the food expert. Tell a story, no man. Are you a story?
You're doing great.
Anyway, she came out complaining about, there's something, them so expensive. She don't understand what is happening, blah, blah, blah. So Amy's like, so how much did you pay for X? And Amy's from Texas. She's from here. I'm pretty sure of it. Amy is from Texas. That's where Monique met her. And so Amy is very American. And very white. And very white. And Amy's like, how much did you pay for the whatever she called the cheese sticks? And Sophie's like, I paid, I don't even remember how much it was. Like, you just said $40. Amy's like, but I paid $20. We're like, oh Lord. So get the American tax.
A lie.
We went to Duns River Falls. So get the American tax. Everywhere we go, so get American tax. She pay American money everywhere. Yo, we made fun of her the entire
time.
The entire trip.
Even Ed, Mr. Scorn.
Wait, Ed was getting the Jamaican price?
Yes. Even Amy was getting the Jamaican price, and Soph was not. Okay.
Listen, to this day, and Carrie, it wasn't even like I was trying to be American. Like, I went to them like straight Jamaican, like, yo, more I want cheese sticks, like straight Jamaican. But I was like, $40.
And they were like, no, you American.
I'm like,
that's so strange.
Listen, me not like to you, Mr. Money and Amy laughed me to scorn.
Oh, rip. We went to Boston. Yeah. We were like, give her the American tax. Yo, let me tell you the whole trip.
Yeah, if Amy's getting the Jamaican price, I'd be offended.
Right? Like, everybody getting I get offended when people don't know. I feel like people need to know that I'm Jamaican.
That's because 2 o'clock just so them know. Listen. Okay? Don't get into it now.
No, even when Ed got the price, I'm like, whatever, maybe he's just black. But Amy, I'm like, no, you got to.
But we went
with Mo.
Right. So we went around to try and make sure Amy got the tax, but we assumed that Amy wasn't taxed, like Amy was paying the American price. So we would go and make sure we hide her or do certain things to make sure she don't get that. So on the other hand, we assumed she was okay. They were like, oh, you American, you pay American.
No, you shouldn't assume that, because my mom, they could smell the America on you, because my mom used to hide me. She'd be like, no, not her. But now I'm so good at being a Jamaican from America that when we stop like on the roadside, I'm like, listen, don't do it. I know you think you know me, but give me the right price, please.
Listen, I don't even try anymore.
I'm like, don't trick me. I'll be listening for what you give other people. Don't trick me.
I don't even negotiate prices in Jamaica anymore. I
negotiate. I'm like,
my dad or whoever I'm with that's from Jamaica, they're doing all the business.
Now I can. There was a season where I wasn't.
I said, listen, I sound very Jamaican. What's the issue? He goes, your
No.
skin don't look Jamaican. I'm like, what
No.
the word is that?
You look different. You just move different. As much as you think you look regular.
I know the Jamaican price, so I want you to give me a different price. Not gonna happen. Nope.
I'm like, I gotta go change my skin. This is like
So I have a question. As you are becoming like adapting to American culture, right? Clearly, we have adapted and we have embraced, like multiple parts of American culture. I would say that we must have encountered like two types of reactions, right? Some kind of interactions that we found harmful. So we picked up like stereotypes, because I know I've heard stereotypes of Americans as I moved here. And then we learn for ourselves, right, as we become more educated. And then some are more helpful, right? So one off the bat, I know when I moved here, I had to become more open-minded. I learned way more about myself, about my people, about like the Black experience in America. But then when I came here and you interact with the very immigrant community, them lazy. That's what you hear, right? And then you hear, oh, Jamaicans taking all our jobs.
Right.
So there's like multiple points, right? There's a point of we're a community, but then there's also points of tension. I don't know if you guys might have experienced that because you were in high school, maybe. And a lot of times in high school, more so than college, we're filtering our families' thoughts. So they're filtering theirs, right? In their interactions with us as immigrants. And we're filtering ours from our communities of immigrants, right? So I don't know if you guys experienced any of that, but I certainly heard about it and discussed it in college.
I kind of heard stereotypes among like other immigrant groups. I would say much less than Americans, because I guess in my world, I guess when they're giving you the information, it's like, okay, Americans are different from you. We accept that. White people different, even Black Americans are different from you. They are not going to ever understand you. But if you are drawn to other immigrant groups, so Africans, Haitians, Trinidadians, here are certain things that you need to pay attention to. And then there'd be a list of things. That kind of stereotype, yes.
See, I never ever interacted with that one before.
Never?
No. What are those?
So people never said to you, stick to Jamaicans? Like stick to no? Okay. Oh, yes. I heard that many
other immigrant groups were telling you about American.
I mean, it's not to say that I wasn't friends with people from other immigrant groups. Of course I was. But when it comes to like, oh, if you're finding a husband, you need to find a Jamaican husband. That was always the understanding. That was always what was told. It wasn't, and this is not coming, like I'm saying, my parents told me this. This is just from conversations with yes, it's from interactions with other people. It's not like when my parents were putting me on the airplane, they're like, don't bring home the Jamaican, don't bring home anybody else but the Jamaican. Man, we've never had that conversation. It was a lot different than that. So, yeah, the only thing.
That wasn't my experience. I don't know.
No, it wasn't mine either.
I will say, though, then this may be one of the things I learned somewhere in this recovery adjustment space. But growing up in Jamaica, everyone is Black or some shade of Black. And so all the leaders I knew, all the people in power I knew, like everyone was Black. So when I came here, part of the culture shock phase was being treated differently because you were Black. And I was like, it took me a while to really understand that. And I think in some ways, racism has so many levels. I'm still understanding some of the complexities of it, I feel like sometimes. But I think as immigrants, I think it's really a blessing to grow up in a space where you're not thinking about color as being an impediment to how much you can grow, right? there are other things happening. There's, classism, colorism, like all these other things. But I don't think it wasn't until like being black wasn't president. What? And then I come here and it's like, oh, then we've never had a black president. I'm like, no. Like, it's part of a culture shock, and it's part of adjusting to this space of I'm black and I can be anything. And then you come into a space where it's like black people are oppressed and you got to track and adjust. So I think that's one of the things I find really interesting about culturally shifting from Jamaica to here.
Yeah. And there's I was gonna say, I think Misha, I think it's you. You shared something with me. There's a couple. I think the wife is Caribbean. She might be Jamaican, and the guy is American. And they have it's you, right? Okay.
You talking about Fish in the Bush?
Say that again?
You talking about the restaurant?
No, so it's a couple, and they have this I think it's a podcast, but it's definitely like something that they have on video. And they were talking about the same, like what I was just mentioning about the stereotype about Americans and the stereotype about Jamaicans in this sense. But I would think maybe any Caribbean, like immigrant, right? Yeah. Taking a job or da-da-da-da. And the way they had to come to learn and understand each other, to understand where these tensions were stemming from. Mm-hmm. And I had to learn that myself, that we are innocent. So just like you said, you came here and you realize, yeah, you're black. I mean, we knew we were black in Jamaica. Yeah. But when you come here, it's like it's defining a whole different element of you that you never had to define before, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I was in like Africana study classes and I was just like experiencing things, and I mean, my experience in the US was at Rutgers first. Mm. And that was about the same time the president at Rutgers had said something about black people can't learn or GPA or whatever. And he'd gotten, you remember that? And he'd gotten called out. Oh, I have to find it. Oh, yeah. What? And people were arguing about affirmative action and all the different things. And I was like, how did that make? They think we can't grade into, they don't think we excelling at classes. They just think all of us here because we're just black and we need to fill a quota. They don't realize that they have stellar students here that are black. You don't know about girl, let me find that for you right now. Because
me, I didn't realize that there were that I didn't even pay attention to my skin color until I came to America, because my little area that I'm from in Jamaica, the most you may see maybe is a light-skinned person, but we just all assume that we were all black. I mean, it has always been a situation where light-skinned people in Jamaica felt, that they were, I don't know, a little bit above, but it was never a situation for me where I had to pay attention to the fact that I am a black female until I came to America. It hit me like, you are a black female. I'm like, why can't I just be a female? It used to bother me so much when I was filling out things and it was like African American, Hispanic. I'm like, why I can't just be a human? Like, why we gotta check off where we fall? Like, why is that important? I never, to this day, I still do not check that box. I'm like, why can I not just be a human being? Like, why do I need to check a box that I'm African American or Hispanic or white or whatever? It wasn't until that year we went to Texas for choir for tour that it really hit me hard. Mm-hmm. When I don't know if you guys who came with me that year when we went to that restaurant.
You were there, I think.
You were there, Shard?
Yeah, and Carrie and Misha were there.
Yeah. Well, we went to the restaurant to eat, and they wouldn't let us inside because it was literally one bus filled with black people, and they were like, we don't accept your kind here. That thing hit me hard. That was my first experience with racism, quote unquote. And I was like, my kind? What do they mean by my kind? And people, I remember looking at me like, what do you mean? I'm like, no, what do they mean my kind? We are human beings trying to get some food. What do they mean we don't accept your kind here? that was the, I my parents never said to me I should only bring home a Jamaican. I think personally I stuck more to Jamaicans because it was more comfortable for me, right? I can talk to them. Dialogue came much easier. We understood each other. Food was easy for me to say, yo, I want some dumpling and banana, and for no one to say dumplings, like, oh my gosh, what is that? It was like it just came natural. So yes, I stuck more to Jamaicans throughout, my time in America. But I've had friends of every culture. Like I've communicated, associated with everyone. I've never said I am not going to talk to this one because they're not Jamaican. Like I've never done that. I think for me, it was more people who've done it to me. That's been my experience, and not the opposite, where I did it to somebody else. That's America. You adjust.
You definitely have to adjust.
Yeah.
You had that slap in the face moment. I don't remember having that. It has always been, because I know what to, like, I've been not engrossed in it, but I experienced it. Even when I used to come here for summers, I used to go to summers in Virginia. Now that was very white, very, very, very white, and the people who I stayed with were very white.
Guys, we've lost Misha.
Yeah. But to be honest, I think another part of all of our experience is we had some fundamental beginnings that kind of position us differently. So I think we view these things through a different lens.
Mm-hmm.
And it's either jarring to us, or it's also like, wait, am I supposed to act like I don't belong here because I feel like I belong here?
Right.
And we are in these spaces where I'm from, so why can't I be in these spaces here too, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
So speaking of being in spaces, I think that we are all, right, personality-wise, pretty open-minded individuals. And I'm curious to know if anyone in the group, and so if you mentioned this, that you're like, no, but dating outside of your race, and if you have, what that meant for you culturally.
So, okay, I have entertained.
Entertained, okay? Not date.
Not date. I have entertained individuals that were not Jamaicans, and personally, right? It was okay. I think the only issue I had was like when we would go check out a movie or whatever. It was always like, I'm like, Dad, can we just walk in and watch a movie? It just always felt like, and sometimes I've actually asked myself, am I more self-conscious to people looking because I knew I was with, a white person or a Hispanic person, or were they really looking? Am I just making up in my head that people are looking at us? I've asked myself that many times. But apart from that, I knew, if I must be honest with myself, I knew I would have preferred to marry a Jamaican, only because, like I said, it was just more comfortable for me. But I can't say that if I had fell in love with a non-Jamaican that I would have been like, sorry, I can't talk to you because you're not Jamaican. Like if I had met someone and we fell in love and I'm like, yo, I love this man, I'm not gonna be like, sorry, sir, I love you, but like, no.
Right. Yeah.
And you have to remember, like, when you're Jamaican, there's like all of these like cultural norms, right? Like, think about it. If you say gonna exercise here and walk on the road, you just walk in, you could do whatever you want to do. In Jamaica, you could have your headphones in, everybody pass, you have to say morning and afternoon too, right? There are things that culturally are just normal to you, right? And it could be even gender norms, and then just people norms that I think if you're dating someone outside of your culture, you have to just be cognizant that it's not norm to them. Or so like I will tell you one story. I won't even tell you which culture, but I will tell you one story. I remember me and my Jamaican friend, and then us with two of our friends from a different culture. We went to the mall in college, right? And then we went to our friend's home. And we're talking, met our parents, we're like chatting, it was good. And then we're leaving, right? And then we're like, where's her car key? We couldn't find our car key. So we're all like looking for our car keys. And somehow it got in the trash because she had taken out the trash. We were in the trash looking for her car key. We found the car key. So when we found the car key, before we left, we went in the house. And me and my Jamaican friend got to the bathroom to wash our hands. And they went to wash their hands in the kitchen. And we're like, and it's so funny that for them it was normal to wash their hand in the kitchen, but we're like, but you don't drop your food in the kitchen sometimes, like, you know, like you're washing fruits, you might just throw them out to the kitchen. So I'm like, I'm not gonna wash my hands or spit in the kitchen sink, but I will spit and wash my hands in the bathroom sink because I'm not bringing food in there. I don't know. There's probably no dang difference because you wash both with disinfectant and soap, right? But then in college, we were like, yo, I want to go on. But now, of course, you realize that, yeah, say you were dating someone outside of your culture and that was a norm for them. You realize, you have to realize at some point that you can, and you have to be able to do this, right? So this is you have to be able to say, both sink wash with soap and disinfectant. So at the end of the day, no fight needs to be made over it. If the person is generally, if you guys can live together with similar cleanliness, right, then we don't want to split hairs over those things. But I remember when we saw that, we were kind of like, my mother would kick me out. Like, where are you going in the kitchen washing nothing?
That's true, Shar. It's like the first time I saw someone, again, I won't even say the culture either, but bathing their baby in their kitchen sink. I remember going, what in the world? Are you about to bathe the baby's poopy bottom in the kitchen sink?
Yeah.
Look, and you want to give me food? No, thank you. I'm good. You know, but again, culture.
Yep.
You
have to kind of, this is a forcing of open-mindedness, because I would say that if I was back home and that happened, they don't need to stretch their minds. So in their mind, they're like, no, something I eat from the person there.
Nothing.
You know, like they just don't eat. But then when you're here and you kind of open your mind to like different things, then some things you give on and other things maybe you can't. Like still there's a boundary. But I would say if you're dating someone outside of your culture, you have to kind of be cognizant of that so you don't misinterpret things or make assumptions or hold on to things that are just not important. I would say the benefits of dating someone that's not of your culture is if you're into like embracing new experiences and different, you know, like different things and different food and just having like that become a part of your day-to-day life, then that's also a good thing. And at the end of the day, if you're dating someone and they're a good person and they like jive, you and them jive, then that's way beyond, you know? So those are the good things. But yeah, I could totally see.
We do need to talk about code switching too, though, because I do more than anything else. I realize that I do that the most. When it comes to transitioning from Jamaica to here is the code switching part. So the whole experience about being black and feeling woman and feeling everything else, the biggest part I feel is when I don't feel like people understand me because of what I'm saying or how I'm saying it, and I'm very cognizant of that more than anything else. So Karen mentioned the whole Z thing. I literally say things and I'm like, how do y'all say that here again? Because I do that. Light gone. Wait, y'all don't say light gone? Okay, we need to figure out how to say it, cause
wait. Anybody ever go to go get them picture clean?
Back in the day.
I will never forget it. I went to get the picture them clean, and I went to the guy and I said, "Oh, I'll clean the picture." And he's like, "You want to do what?"
Yeah.
I do remember that.
He's like, "You want to do what?" I said, "Clean the picture," and he's like, "Why would you want to clean the pictures?" I'm gonna look at him like he was crazy. Like,
why aren't you understanding me? Right when I say I'm gonna go look for somebody and they're like, they lost. I'm like, no. I'm gonna go visit them, therefore I'm gonna go look for them.
Right. There are many of those.
Where do you code switch the most, Mish?
Yeah.
Probably at work, obviously. I mean, outside of work, I don't really interact that much. I mean, there are some people who will say to me, and I guess I can't really hide it. There are people that I will onboard, and then after the onboarding process, they're like, where are you from? And there are just certain things, ways that I say things that I just can't hide from that. And there are certain people who will talk to me, and they're like, I never once knew you were from Jamaica. And I'm like, I know. And they're like, why you don't talk like you're from Jamaica? And I'm like, because then you wouldn't understand what I'm saying. You don't understand how much effort I put in to translate what I'm thinking. And as much as I'm speaking English, there are certain things and certain ways that I say certain things that I have to translate in my head before I say it.
Especially in Texas.
I mean, it's literally everywhere, but yes, I mean, I just have to say things a certain way because then people will take it how they want to take it based on where they come from. So I do feel like I code switch at work a lot. And that's why public speaking is also hard for me because I will try to ad lib, but my ad libbing is in Jamaican because it comes out naturally.
Right.
So when I'm ad libbing, I have to translate in my head. How do I say this phrase? How do I say certain things? And then speak it. But then it's not natural. It sounds fake. So
then you sound slow.
Yeah. So it's hard for me. It's hard for me to have natural public speaking just on a natural circumstances where I feel like people need to understand me. Unless I just don't care. Because sometimes I just don't care. I just talk and cross my fingers
that you understand.
What you want?
I tell my students because when I'm lecturing, like if you're lecturing for 3 hours, there's no way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I just go, how do y'all say this? Because in Jamaica, this is how it's done. Because I can't fix the pronunciations. Like clearly, I will say I grew up being corrected. So I'm the kind of person that tends to speak standard English anyway, but my Jamaican standard English is not Americanized. Okay. And so I just have to always cop to it. Or like when I teach undergrads, they ask. Like they're not shy. Grad students don't ask. But undergrads, where are you from? And they're trying to guess where the accent from because they don't really know. But they're like, yeah. Then you say Jamaican, they're here. And I'm like, you can't be cursing, professor.
One. And they're not even saying it right. One.
And you know when Jamaicans are talking and you get upset, it's straight Jamaican, you get it. My kids, they crack me up. They're like, ooh, Miss Hill is upset. Because they know. like straight American talking, and then all you hear was ooh. And most times when that ooh comes out, then I realize that I've completely just switched over. Yeah. I'm like, now you done brought out the Jamaican.
That's because that's naturally how you think. It's naturally how you think.
But even though Carrie, I was saying, even though Carrie has a Jamaican accent, I would say, Carrie, your accent is way more than any of us, more American. Like, I feel like you probably even think in American. I don't know if you think in American. I'm telling you that you do. I'm just saying.
Carrie has mastered.
That's right.
Very well.
That's right.
She gets Jamaican accent too.
Yeah, when Carrie goes straight Jamaican, she is Kingston Jamaican. Like,
Kingston people.
Not Kingston Jamaican.
Don't.
Not like Curry Market Jamaican.
I think Carrie has, as Soph said, mastered the code switching, mastered moving from one to. I am nowhere close to mastering.
No way. I will never be.
Nowhere.
I'll say this. When I was younger, my mother, I used to have to. Well, I guess it's code switch, but I would have to code switch for my mother. So I think some of that comes from having to practice at a young age. My mom used to do a lot of domestic work when I was in high school, and her accent is real deep. And so part of my role was helping her navigate phone interviews So I was the translator in some ways. So I had to become good at that pretty quickly. So I think that just, right, kept going as you go into adulthood and you get into your own adult life. But I do remember just talking to, people on the phone, calling people for my mom about interviews. I remember one time being on the phone talking to this woman and trying to negotiate salary. I had to be like 14 maybe. I was in high school, but I was like, oh, the woman was asking what was the difference in rate. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I think they were Jewish. I didn't know what I was saying. But I remember having those calls and understanding I needed to get my mother work. Like that was the goal of the call, even though I didn't know much else about what was going on. So I think that plays a huge part in understanding the importance of code switching very early on, even before I got into college and work and all the other places where that makes a lot of sense. So, yeah.
Listen, I've talked about you many times, people. Whenever people say something like, listen, I can show you a Jamaican that she'll open her mouth and you don't know. Okay, I have one of those friends, sir.
I will say I've had people say to me, they meet me for the first time. This is in work, and we talk on the phone for a couple of years, and we finally meet. And they were like, "Oh, I was expecting a little short white lady," and I was like, oh, "Okay." I don't know how to take that.
Short though? Wow. Short.
Right. Short.
Forget I can see the white part, but the short, I don't know.
But
okay.
The worst I've ever gotten is maybe British, because I overpronunciate my T's and do, but that's only because they don't know British accent.
Right.
Because us in Jamaica, we would never cross a
British
we'll never do a Jamaican accent.
No. But I think some of that too, when you think about it, is, and maybe this is overthinking it, but it's like, to what degree does my code switching infringe on my realness, right? Like, am I sacrificing my authentic Jamaican self while I'm code switching?
Right. Right.
I think you balance it quite well.
I think it's fine. And matter of fact, I'm going to go one more and say, I get offended when people say to me, oh, you speak so proper. Oh, you must be this or that.
Right.
Actually, there are a wide variety and range of Black people. Some of us speak this way, some of us speak that way. And no, we're not trying to sound white. There are educated Black people that sound like this. There are educated Black people that don't sound like this. Yeah. There are people who are not educated that sound like this. And there's some people that just want to be who they want to be. So I'm just like, yeah, understand that there's a variety of us here. Because, I get that a lot. Like, oh, you're so, what?
I had to talk about one of my coworkers.
Yeah, and I'm blackity black and proper and quiet.
Black.
We come in different,
One of my coworker one day, I was like, you do know they speak English in Jamaica, right? Like, and I'm going to use the word forcefully say that to her, because I'm like, what do you think we spoke? Like, I don't understand. What do you think happened in Jamaica?
Let me just tell you how I hate.
But they do speak English in Jamaica.
I hate those questions. How do you say hello in Jamaica? Hello.
Yeah, I have to tell them that Patois is like, it's a communal language. You don't get it unless we jiving, because Patois, it's like, it's not only like, like you can't just ask me you can't get Patois out of me unless we dancing. Exactly.
I agree. I mean, even though there's a way to say hello with
like wagwan. No, girl, that's not how it goes.
No, they're like, you gotta teach me Jamaican. Okay.
Pick it up. You gotta pick it up.
But some of that is genuine curiosity, right? And so where it's genuine curiosity, I think I'm more obliged to entertain that conversation if it's coming from a genuine place of curiosity versus mockery. I think sometimes people try to mock you and be, slight-handed about, oh, let me talk Jamaican, or they'll mix like Patois with some other languages. And I'm like, if you're curious, then let's have a conversation about your curiosity. Don't try to mock me, because now I'm going to get offended. You know?
I mean, but I don't really know that I've met someone from a different culture or race or anything and say, how do you say hey in whatever country, like language you're from? Like, that is not the first thing that comes to my mind. Or, do you love Bob Marley? I'm sorry, what? Why is this?
I'm the one that must ask that because I am obsessed with Bob Marley. So yeah, you can ask this Jamaican that because I am. Yes, ma'am.
Bob Marley's universal. No matter where you go, you say you're Jamaican. The first
Bob
word
Marley
is Bob Marley.
Well, I'm that stereotype. I'm not the weed stereotype.
Listen,
I'm not the red stripe stereotype, but I am the Bob Marley stereotype. Like, yes, I am a stan.
when we were at Rugby's, 2 white guys showed up at our apartment one night talking about they wanted to buy weed. And somebody told that Jamaicans live here. Do you remember that? Were you there?
I don't know.
Rutgers, 2 white guys showed up at the apartment and was told and said they were told that Jamaicans lived there and they wanted to buy weed. And I was saying,
Oh,
wait,
that's funny.
Jamaican and weed? What the heck is going on in this conversation? You weren't there?
No, sir. I don't remember that happening.
Yes, 2 white guys. I would never forget it. I'm like, wow, to just being Jamaican means I have weed. Okay, sir, I'm so sorry. But not only do I not have any weed, I've never smoked weed. He's like, oh, that's not the truth. Oh, every Jamaican smoke weed. No.
Crazy.
No, sir. No, ma'am.
Apparently, we live in trees, small, walk down the street high with the lions and tigers that are roaming, okay? This is what's happening in Jamaica.
But
I had a roommate whose boyfriend was afraid of me.
That is like general.
He said we violent.
Those general assumptions, I think, get attached to any culture you don't know. Because I noticed when I talk to other Caribbean cultures, some folks think the same way of Africans, and I'm like, Africa's like here. Like, you say Africa, but like, oh, you catching zebras? Are you catching zebras here? Like, so it extends, I'm like,
it's the unknown, right? Which is why we just have to like stay open-minded and learn them and then be curious. I'm never offended. I love to talk about Jamaica. So I'm never offended if anybody wants to learn. I could teach you a few patois words, but you're gonna have to really commit to the Jamaican experience if you want to learn. But I love to talk about Jamaica. So yeah, open mind, learn, and don't assume, or at least Google.
Yeah.
Catching zebras.
Google will tell you everything. Cut it out.
Mm-hmm.
I said Google will tell you everything. Cut it out.
Cut it out. Cut it out.
Very true.
So, anyways, ladies, want to wrap it up, and I just wanted to give you ladies a chance to say your final takeaways about just code switching, culture shock, your experience moving here and becoming, an immigrant in the U.S. Any final thoughts?
I think my biggest thought is that going through the process, all the ones you talked about, honeymoon, the culture shock, accepting it, I think it's all meant to make you a better person. If you live in a little bubble, you'll never learn, you'll never grow. You have to stretch your mind, stretch yourself, stretch your understanding, stretch all of it for you to grow as a person. So I don't think I would ever take any of it back. I don't think I would ever want anybody else to experience anything other than a new culture. And that's why we travel so much also, is so we can immerse ourselves in new cultures. So it's not so much a shock if anything happens. If you meet someone, it's not like, y'all live in a hut? No. So I think it's always a good thing for us to experience all of it. That's my takeaway.
Yeah, I do think, Mish, to your point, it makes me think of kind of just things that I think as we're meeting different people and connecting with different people in our lives, I think we all have to be reminded of this, but it's about being respectful to that person as a human being, like no matter where they're from, whether they're Jamaican, wherever, Caribbean, African, wherever, having this basic level of respect for that person's human experience, whether it looks like yours or not. I think that's so important. And also being curious, as Shar said, is really important because, once your mind is closed off to something, it shuts down the possibility of even connecting with that other person, right? So it doesn't leave that area open. And then being kind. Like, just be kind to people because everyone has their own thing going on. And sometimes you're struggling trying to figure out where you fit into this culture. And then here comes somebody with another layer of negative energy. So those are the things that come to mind for me.
Yeah, I agree with Carrie with just be open-minded. That we're all different. We're all on this journey, and we start at different places, and you're not gonna find everybody experience life different based on where you're coming from, right? So because we don't always see eye to eye, don't make you right and me wrong. Just be respectful of everyone's culture. Be kind. I agree with the be kind. And just remember that we're all, even though we're different, we're all human beings. We may react to things differently, but we're all human beings. So I will say, see me for the human being that I am and not the Black Jamaican chick trying to make it through in this country.
Right.
But I'm a human being. You're a human being. I'm a human being. Let's just respect each other for that,
Yeah.
Yep. And I think that's a good note to end on. I would just say American culture, I've actually learned to not only love it, but appreciate it. It helped me become a better person because it opened my mind and it helped me learn more. And by opening my mind here and learning more, I have learned more about myself and more about, it made me seek to learn more about Jamaica. And I feel like I know more about Jamaica now that I'm out of Jamaica because I've sought knowledge because I got curious, right? So it's like knowledge breeds knowledge. So I agree. Keep your mind open and learn about others. And like everyone's been saying, even if you don't understand it, respect it, right? And be kind. So I think that's good. I think we all ended on a positive note. We little Jamericans are. Thanks. Thank you so much for a great episode, ladies. And we will see you another time.
Bye.
Bye.